So I just want to say that I am so blessed here to be with this extraordinary leadership team from Children's Primary Care Medical Group. It's the work that you do for the community is immense. And we've had the blessing to, have an association for a number of years right now, where we've been working on physician well-being programs for your group. And we had this meeting to discuss a program that we were going to do next year, and that's shifted now. But it actually has opened into much greater possibility. So Abe, I was very inspired by what you were saying, and Genevieve and Adam as well. So I would welcome you to share what you, what you were sharing before. And, I take that to heart, and to hear of the impact that this work has already had on your group before we actually go forward and imagine what can come next from this. I would love you to share.
Yeah, well, I was, Danny, our group loves you so much because you really have guided us in our well-being mission, really, in our group. And I know when I first met you, it was 2008. I signed up for an integrative medicine conference in San Diego. It sounded kind of interesting. And there was a pre-conference workshop. I think it was a one-day workshop, or maybe a half-day workshop, and that you had done about resiliency. And I said, oh, it sounds interesting. So I went and signed up for it. It was absolutely life-changing. And I left that workshop with all these ideas and things. And I said, we've got to get this into our medical group. And so I spent the next 5 years working with our leadership. And when the time was right, we brought you in 2013 to do our first resiliency program which coincided exactly when our well-being committee started, right? Genevieve, was right around that exact time, 2013.
Very similar.
And so it was perfect timing, because Genevieve had brought to the board that we really need to have a well-being program, and I had just done your thing, so it was a perfect marriage there that we brought together. And really, for 7 years now, you've been the spirit guiding our well-being program, and we've done, I think, three full formal programs that have helped our physicians immensely. And to this day, even people who did the one from 7 years ago still talk about it. I mean, your program literally saved many a physician from total burnout and probably leaving medicine. And so we
to add on to that, Abe, I think I mentioned this to Danny last time, that when you did your webinar at the beginning of COVID with us, for which we're very grateful, one of the providers actually emailed me afterwards and said it was something that she was truly grateful for, and she said, anything that Danny says makes me feel better. So that was her quote. So yeah. Go ahead. 2015 to 17, we did 3 years in a row. Sorry. So our well-being committee started in 2013, and then 15, 16, 17, we did resiliency programs, just to clarify.
There we go. Yeah. So, so we really owe you an incredible debt of gratitude, because you've really allowed us and inspired us to keep going with our well-being program. And I think we're really, when we look at other, like even our affiliated hospital and other medical groups, we're really quite far ahead from a lot of the other groups that are just starting to get into it now. And so we've and really a lot of it we owe it to you. So our hearts really go to you for guiding us, and everything we do at our meetings. Your name comes up every meeting almost, it seems like, so even though sometimes we've gone years without formally seeing you, you are really there every step of the way. So we really appreciate that.
Well, I want to reflect back to you. First of all, this wouldn't have happened without your combined leadership. Abe, when you came back, you're very busy. I mean, the amount, I don't need to kind of have you imagine, what life must feel like in a very busy primary care pediatric practice, I know just how your days are filled. And for you to come back from that to say, you know what, we need to change our culture. And you were the one initially that spearheaded, and you made space for that. You made space in your calendar. Somehow you find space to say, this is meaningful work that we've got to do, for the benefit of our colleagues. And then you aligned with Genevieve, which was just a blessed, that work together. And now Genevieve is running the well-being program. I understand you're on the board, Genevieve, and you're kind of, you're the director of the well-being program.
Well, Abe and I co-chair our well-being program, but I'm the director of provider wellness, really in order to have some kind of more official position. But we're really, Abe and I are partners in this.
Beautiful. So, and then this brings me to Adam. So Adam's the president of the group, right? And so the fact that you have supported this work, and I want to give credit to beforehand.
Dr. Page, Tom Page.
Tom Page. Tom, who had an interaction with my mentor, Lee Lipsenthal. And by the way, and so Tom opened his heart into kind of initially making all of this possible as well. And I've just an anecdote. Lee was my mentor. He passed away from metastatic esophageal cancer at age 50. But I was so inspired by Lee because I remember he lived this life that I'm experiencing now. And I'll never forget. I look back and he lived so fully alive. And I was just inspired to want to say, could I ever get to where Lee is? So it's amazing to actually feel that, through his mentorship, I've actually followed in his place. And Lee had just such a powerful way of expressing his fully aliveness. He said, today is a good day to die. He said, today is a good day to die. Why? Because he lived his life without regret. He lived his life being fully alive. And so he was in the full embrace of his diagnosis. And so now, I couldn't understand that fully at the time. Now I do. Now I do. And to acknowledge both of you and Adam, that you're now making space, we're here to meet. You were going to invest in a year-long program, in continuing physician well-being. And I know that you're invested heavily in leadership development. Is that fair to say, as the leader of the group?
We're trying.
Well, what I've heard, let me tell you what I've heard from Abe and Genevieve. What they sing your praises, because they sing your praises where they say, when we talk about, it's not just a resiliency program, it's understanding about how conscious leadership actually intersects with resiliency. So we've spoken about leadership's an act of influence. Leadership being an act of influence. And when you begin to think about that, we begin to think about, where do people have influence in their lives? And so very quickly, you understand we have influence. As healthcare providers, we don't have to be in formal leadership roles to have influence. We certainly have influence with our patients. But then we have influence at home with our families as parents. We have influence in our communities and, with our friends and communities. So the question is, where don't we have influence? Where don't we have influence? So leadership is not a role, it's a way of being. It's a way of being. And what I understand is that you're invested, at that level in every touch point, whether it be an admin person or whether it be a nurse or allied healthcare provider or a physician, that they experience an awareness of the profound influence that they have at every touch point in the organization. At every touch point in the organization. Does that capture the essence of your?
Well, I'm not as deep as you are. I mean, I wish I could be. I'm just not. Our our group is too big and I can't do a lot of the things. So I like having people doing my work, and I do show appreciation when they do my work and they help the organization. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying that, but I'm a little bit, I'm not quite as global in your thinking of that. I just, we have a big organization to run and we need help. And in the old days, it was just done in smaller groups and the organization wasn't really a healthy organization. We're much healthier now that a lot of people are doing a little bit. And I do express appreciation to that, is that we have so much more ability of unleashing people's potential, which we didn't have maybe 5 or 10 years ago.
Well, you've also made space. You actually, essentially what you did was you made space for a direct, the Committee on Physician Wellness, and embedded that actually with Genevieve as being the Director of Physician Wellness, which reports into the board. So that's actually structurally declares how important you feel physician wellness is to unleash the full potential of the healing you can provide for patients. Is that fair to say?
That is very fair to say.
Yeah.
That thankfully, Jen and Abe have a very strong core, and the group feels it whenever they speak. They feel it. So
Yes.
the right people are in the right place. That's correct. Yeah.
Amazing. And again, just want to kind of express gratitude to you for making space for that. Thank you.
And I would also say, Adam, that maybe you don't give yourself quite enough credit, but I've definitely heard you say on many occasions that, each physician is a leader, and you talk a lot about how we interact with the staff, especially. That's kind of a one area you've focused a lot, but you definitely have recognized that all the physicians are leaders, even if they're not the lead physician or whatever, in how we interact with the staff and stuff. So I think there's more than you give yourself credit for. But
One area I certainly agree with Danny. I mean, just like when you were mentioning you couldn't understand when your mentor acted a certain way. I've had many mistakes over the years, and I can actually see myself in the past of how evil in many ways I was. So I try to be evil now, and I you can see you learn by mistakes. You don't learn by doing everything right from the first day you did it. So.
Well, we learn from the past, but you know what? Where the other place we learn from? We learn from the future. So it's not only a relationship with our past self. When we actually begin to envision, a glorious future self, let's say Adam, Abe, and Genevieve 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, and you can live into a vision. When we do that process with living your vision well lived, making that actually very, very, very rich. So you actually you put yourself into a relationship with your future self. You put yourself into the relationship with your future self.
Never.
And then you could actually look at what would Adam, Abe, or Genevieve do 3 years from now when they're actually even more grounded and wise. What would they do? So you can draw that inspiration from your future self as well. And then engage in a bi-directional relation with your future self, which is, how would I need to take care of my present self to make place for that future self? So that's a big part of some of the science that's emerging in cultivating. This would have been a meaningful part of our resiliency program. We do draw resiliency from the past, knowing how we've come through challenging circumstances and our strengths that have actually brought us into the present. But we also draw resiliency from imagining, a vital and resilient and more resilient future self and living into that experience.
You're going to help us do that for 150 other people, right?
Yes, well, I'm going to show you something right now that I believe is going to help you scale for no cost. So So let me share with you our passion project that our family has been working on. It's, can you see this?
Yeah.
We're creating a YouTube channel. It's a YouTube channel by our family, written for families. And when I say actually, we're publishing videos literally in a stream of unfolding. And when I say it's from a family going through, it's not about my cancer, even though there's some cancer updates in this channel. Essentially what it is all the learning our family is going through right now. My cancer just happens to be a side story, but it's actually all we're learning through this adversity, and the lessons are glorious. What my sons are learning, and I'm mindful of that you have a pediatric practice. So we're actually all sharing these lessons in our own unique voices. We're all learning these unique lessons. So yeah, you have a number of videos not only being shared by me, but being shared by Zach and Dylan as well. And so, you know, the channel is called Living Well From Within. It's Living Well From Within. And it's essentially what I feel moved to offer is, I feel moved to offer in this precious time I have remaining, is allowing my spark of adversity to serve, to inspire healing, growth, and thriving in everybody's life who actually experiences this, and to actually bring that out in widening circles of compassion into the world, whether it be in that with their patients, their families, their communities, and the world at large. So you can think of this as some people will binge watch this as a Netflix series, but it's a Netflix series with a message, because each of these videos we're going to engage in. I'm going to share. This is I don't know if I've shared this concept with you before, active learning cycle. Have I shared that with you before?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
So was that impactful?
Also in your video, in the original video that you sent to us. Yes. Okay, fantastic. So in this, you know, just to recap for others listening over here, we've shared that there's content experience, and certainly there is, you know, we're sharing content and experiences here. You know, it's an unfolding human drama, if you will. And so, but that's not, you know, that's not entertainment enough. What it is, you know, I want to support everybody listening, including your physicians in your practice, to engage in reflection in terms of what does this mean for my life and how I can serve at an even higher level. What does this mean in my life where I can serve at an even higher level, and what actions can I take to do so? And so, and then it comes down to new experiences, and then that spiral is, you know, experience, reflection, action, experience, reflection, action. That's an upward spiral of learning and growth. Mm-hmm. So the goal of this is, you know, in the channel, this is a journey to inspire healing, growth, and thriving in your life and the world. And it just so happens to be that the core messages is, you know, it's our Freeland family journey into making every moment count and living a loving life. So as this unfolds, here's why I think it would be so rich because this first message over here, we haven't written, you know, that first one is where I had just got the diagnosis of thinking I have the MRI diagnosis was grade 4 likely grade 4 glioblastoma. You know, we all know what that means. And so when I got that diagnosis, immediately my wife, before my biopsy, wanted to me to shoot a video, make a message for our kids. And so, you know, I've just actually come off of another call where I'm working with this extraordinary woman, Amanda Rooker,
where I'm going to work with her. She edited my book. And we're working now on this as a passion project together, because within this description over here, we want to put, what is the summary of the essence of this 2-minute sharing? But then what I want to put in here is, the questions of reflection and actions. So, we would inspire if you were to get a life-threatening diagnosis today, who would you call? Who would you call, and what message would you want to leave for them as your enduring legacy for them? And then you would reflect, and then the follow-on would be, why wait? Why wait? And then what actions are you going to take now? So it's that where I believe this can scale as lessons. You can look at these videos, binge watch them yourself, and select which elements of this do you feel would serve your physician well-being, at the highest level. So I'm providing you free content, sharing my experience to enable you to reflect and help make meaning in a way that's going to serve not only your clinician's life that's doing heroic work in the trenches, that they're doing heroic work, but it enables them to actually learn lessons that nourish their lives in a way that they'll be able to serve their patient, well, first their families, their own families. I mean, pediatricians, many pediatricians have their own kids. First, living well from within, and then to be able to take that out to care at a higher level for their patients. And here's where I'm kind of really inspired in terms of the possibility. So by the way, in terms of, that video that I did with Amanda Rooker, I fleshed the vision and purpose out fully around what I'm sharing with you now. These on day 10 of my healing journey, I visited Scripps MD Anderson Cancer Center. And this is where I got set up for my radiation therapy. And they allowed me to film, the unfolding of events through that. And it was an extraordinary experience. It was an extraordinary experience, not only, and this is key, not only in understanding the science, the Star Wars level of technology we were using to actually kind of provide precision radiation for my brain tumors. But more importantly, the caring touch that I experienced with the nurses, the extraordinary caring touch I experienced with the nurses and technicians deeply healed me before I've even got my radiation therapy. So you might be able to actually say on day 10, watch these videos. What are you noticing about the care, the interactions that the nurses and the technicians are having with Danny? What are you noticing about that? And how does that inspire us to be even more present? I mean, you're providing, outstanding healing care, to be even more present for the patients we serve. So that's a possibility in terms of how you could be inspired. And a lot of what you're doing, I mean, a lot of, the work in medicine these days, I don't have to tell you, is transactional. I mean, and this is what burns people out. We're running the medical machine and we're just doing check the box. We're an epic, boom, 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 in and out. And that's what burns people out. What enlivens people is to actually rehumanize healthcare, to actually feel the humanity, to bring the care back into healthcare. And so what I do is I hope these videos would inspire a discussion around the how you can specifically do that within your medical group.
It sounds amazing. I think that sounds wonderful, and we appreciate your offering that and giving us that opportunity.
Yeah. So, what I will pledge to you is, when I'm ready to kind of release this, and we were hoping to do it this week or early next week, we can set up another discussion. I would encourage you to, between now and when we next talk, to binge watch all these videos and make notes in terms of what you're seeing for where your group is at, that would feel especially relevant to your specific group. So you'll see things that I won't be able to anticipate. But if you can actually, binge watch those and make notes, I'll help you craft some of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
You can co-create.
Yeah, Danny, one of the things that we've struggled with a little bit as a group is sometimes I think the reactivity part of our jobs that sometimes I think gets in the way of our clear thinking and clear responses, as you obviously talk about within your course. And one of the things that as I was reviewing the video with Tracy, and as I was kind of thinking about more things and some of the challenges that our group is experiencing, is that sometimes, our challenges are so great that I feel like we spreading out more the message of how to maintain your composure and reactivity in the face of adversity, which I know you talk a ton about. And I feel like that was one of the things as I was thinking through what we can revisit as a group within the whole leadership context. That's one of the things that I'm hoping that we can move forward on.
I have 2 videos in the series that will address that. So I'm going to show you, and this is exactly where, why it would be wonderful for you to be able to watch all these videos. This over here, let me show you. This over here is where I did a video on day 7. That was actually a longer video, but what this was I did a preview. I'm going to be doing an Awakening Conscious Leadership course the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of December. So I've got a 3-day workshop, and this was giving a preview of that. Okay. So this is a preview of my conscious leadership work, and I went through the neuroscience of that and actually really expressed the power for clinicians that haven't seen the neuroscience. I haven't been exposed to everybody in the practice yet, but the power of them understanding more fully how their brain works, how the brain is mapped to a simplified Maslow's hierarchy of needs, conceptually, but it's really powerful at the levels of safety, belonging, and significance. And then we talk about when demands exceed resources, we go into a threat response down into reactivity. So I want them to know that when demands are high and resources are low, they're not weak or they're not flawed. This is how the brain acts under states of high demand and low resources in an endeavor to protect itself.
Right.
This is completely normal. So this destigmatizes that. And then they understand their burnout more fully, because when you actually spend, weeks or months, going down in the stream of the threat response into the safety frame, what happens is we become exhausted. When we forego love and belonging, we become disconnected. And when we forego a sense of what gives us significance, we have a reduced sense of accomplishment. Those 3 components are the gold standard definitions of burnout. So all of a sudden, now they understand that their burnout is the inverse of a simplified Maslow's hierarchy, which is completely understood as a result of the demands exceeding resources and the brain's just natural response to protect itself. It literally helps them understand that more deeply. And then we talk about, the skills and tools for elevation, that ultimately, how do you become more internally resourceful to create deeper psychological safety within yourself, to create deeper connection within yourself and reconnect with the joy and significance of your medical practice and your life. And that stream puts you into becoming more internally resourceful. And then when you get into community, a big part of your physician wellness well-being program is how do you actually create community? That's a big part of this. How do you leverage, how do you optimize resources? And then Adam, this is also from a systemic level. When you're thinking about from a systemic level, it's not only investing in personal risk, you're thinking about from a systems level, how do we streamline demands? Like what can we get off of physicians' plates? What reasonably can we get off the physician's plate that is fully overloaded? And then how can we optimize resources to help physicians rise to the challenges at hand? So that's actually, when you look at the demands and resources, we can look at that on a personal level, but we can also look at this at a system level. And it's a both and. I'm mindful that when we did our first program, I don't know if you remember, there was one physician that said, said it's all good and well. It's all good and well that, that we're having this time working on personal resiliency. But frankly, I feel the system is beating my shin with a hammer. And while this program may help me deal with this pain better, frankly, I'd also like the beating to stop. So it's a both and. It's a both and. And then the other part of this, with this video, you can flesh all of that out using that video. And then this video later in the afternoon, you're going to see what happened when I was just about to get my preliminary diagnosis. I've had this, I'm having this heart opening, but that doesn't free me up from reactivity and stress. I was sitting noticing my fear. And I was actually I was going through step one of the process of recognizing and managing reactivity and reframing my experience with stress and self-doubt. So you're watching me do that in real time. In particular, I shared about, when I speak about reframing our relationship with stress, and the fear around that, I shared in that video, fear is false evidence appearing real. And so my mnemonic in that area as an alternative is let's get real with stress. So I went through in terms of understanding that, first of all, stress happens when something you care about is at stake. So for physicians, many physicians, because we've actually in healthcare, we've told physicians from Hans Salier's work that, the definition of stress is because you can't cope. It's a physiological response to a stress at hand. And the definition is, can I handle it? So when physicians get stressed, they don't only get stressed, they get stressed about being stressed because they say, geez, I'm not handling this very well. And so when you transform that definition into, the researchers at Stanford, Kelly McGonigal, Alia Crum, they've come up with a new definition of stress. They say stress happens when something you care about is at stake. Stress happens when something you care about is at stake. So you don't get stressed because you're weak. You get stressed because you care. And so this changes the game for physicians. They get stressed because they care. So there they'll see in that reframe of their relationship with stress, get real with it. You can recognize that they're stressed. And now the R is recognize, the E is embrace it. We're recognizing that stress is energy simply mobilizing. It's simply mobilizing energy, and stress is just energy, to help us take care of what is really vitally important. So they're no longer getting stressed about having stress and having the energy divided, which leads into burnout. They can use that energy well. They trust that stress is an asset or a friend. That changes the game. And then they can ask the better question. What is it that I really care about, and how can I leverage this energy of stress in service of that? So that is a game changer. And the beautiful thing is you can watch me navigating through that and actually have a discussion. Well, how's Danny dealing with his stress right now? How's he reframing his relationship with his stress? How's he aware with that? And how that might apply to the way you can engage your stress in the heat of the moment, in a situation of high demands and fragmented resources, in what that might mean to your life and your resiliency.
Wow. So it seemed it's fascinating what you're doing, and it integrating your own experience or integrating your life's work into your own experience and sharing it, which is, sorry, I think my video is going off. I've got somebody arriving in my house soon, but that you are almost doing a series of teaching lessons, but while you're integrating your experience.
Exactly.
Which sounds fascinating and amazing.
Yeah, so that's why it's called Living Well from Within. You know, it's based on the work of leading well from within, because now I'm living into this work and I want to do it in a way that, and it's not only me walking through this door, it's my family as well. So we're all sharing the lessons, how we're living into this work. You know, all of us, our entire family have been living this work for a long time. So we're living into it now with, you know, and the passion project is because we want to serve others in living into this work for the benefit of themselves and their families too, whether that be a work family or a home family. So that's, you know, I think the way that you've just distilled that is spot on with what our intention is.
Well, it is very, very inspiring. I mean, I think you're the only person I know of, Danny, in the world who could take brain cancer diagnosis and produce already in 12 days incredible teaching that you've already done, and inspiration you've already done. So it really is inspiring. I'm wondering if you could share with Adam, Lee Lipsenthal's definition of optimal health. I saw you put that in the video you sent to us.
Oh my God, that changed my life. That changed my life.
I think it's really interesting, and it
Yeah.
kind of goes along with what we're saying here. But I couldn't remember it. The wording was critical.
You're giving me an opportunity for actually closing a loop, because in that video, you know, and I believe that video was on day 5, feeling blessed. Yes. I began that preamble of actually talking about how I had been, you know, the key thought leader, one of the key thought leaders in the country on evidence-based medicine, you know, and I'd been talking about evidence-based medicine as the paradigm shift. And then I went to this conference, you know, I went to the American Board of Integrative Holistic Medicine conference, you know, where we met in 2006. And I saw Lee speak. And it was mind-blowing. It was absolutely mind-blowing. Firstly, because Lee actually, from the stage, he was raw authenticity. You know, he just showed up as who he was. But then he offered the definition of optimal health. And I'd never seen a definition, because up until that point in conventional care, I had always learned the definition of optimal health is maintaining absence of disease. That was pretty much it, right? I mean, I think we've all come through that, you know, learning that shaped our, you know, we're very good at curing disease and maintaining absence of disease. We're very good at that. And then Lee gave the definition. He said, optimal health is the conscious pursuit of the physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual and environmental aspects of human experience, resulting in a state of being fully alive. This results in a condition of well-being, and I'm mindful that you're on the well-being committee running. This creates a condition of well-being regardless of the presence or absence of disease. And it was in that moment I knew that many of us key thought leaders in evidence-based medicine who were teaching evidence-based medicine as a paradigm shift, and it is now the standard of care by which all healthcare providers make medical decisions. We had been teaching it at the time in the late 1990s that was a paradigm shift. And in that moment, I knew it wasn't a paradigm shift. I knew that evidence-based medicine was simply an evolution of the tools we were using to make medical decisions. That's by and large what evidence-based medicine, up until that point, we had been engaged in the art of medicine. We'd be engaged in the art of medicine where we were deferring a lot to our clinical experience because we didn't have access to the research database. If we had questions, we would either go to an out-of-date textbook or we'd have to go to the library down to the stacks to get that information. We could not bring research to the bedside. So what evidence-based, with the advent of the internet, what evidence-based medicine provided was the ability to bring research evidence to the bedside. So we were moved from kind of an understanding of the art of medicine, a lot of decisions made based on the pathophysiology of disease, to now actually being able to be more evidence-based in our decision-making. But here's the thing, here's the kicker. The real paradigm is, what is your definition of health to begin with? And if your definition of health is maintaining absence of disease, you will use your evidence-based medicine process, which is a four-step framework, which is asking the right questions, finding the best available scientific information, evaluating the evidence, and applying that in decisions in partnership, ideally with our patients. But if you're actually asking those questions in the paradigm of maintaining absence of disease, those are the only answers you're going to find. What Lee's definition of optimal health clarified, which, by the way, is one of the Academy of Integrative, Health and Medicine's core values. It's in the value set. That's where you'll find it. Is the definition of how do we experience a state of being fully alive? In other words, we're moving from a definition of how do we maintain absence of disease to how do we create health, to how do we fundamentally create health. Don Berwick, who was past head of CMS, he said, focusing on that question will require a radical redesign of the healthcare system. And so when you ask those questions, how do we fundamentally create health and go into the ask, find, evaluate, and apply, that drives a paradigm shift, meaning we're going to need a larger toolbox of options. We're going to need to actually engage people in an experience of wholeness in their care, where it's not only giving drugs, but it's helping patients experience an integration of their mind, body, and spirit. And by the way, the work we're doing within physician well-being is we're first doing the work of physician healing, physician heal thyself, right? A lot of the work that we're doing together is to help integrate physician, healthcare providers, experience of their ability to remember the essential wholeness they are by an integration of their mind, body, and spirit before they actually provide that healing for others.
I know we could go on for hours on this. I apologize, but I have a 1:30 that I need to get to, but
I think we're at a good time. We're at a good time to wrap.
And Abe, and I can clearly see lots of places that I would hope that we can collaborate in any and all time that you have. I mean, I know Jimmy Carter had brain glioma and he's cured now and he's 90 something years old. So well, I'm not going to let you say I only have a few months or years, whatever. I assume there's whatever is still curable out there. But that said, I can envision many ways that we can use your experience and your wiseness. Our group is actually hurting now. I mean, surprisingly hurting now in a way that wasn't even a few months ago.
We're in the time coming out of COVID. I mean, that has created, a huge burden demand on families.
And maybe we can find ways to still collaborate and have your work be still as meaningful as it's ever been. Or
yeah, I think there's a great opportunity. And what I'll pledge to you is after I'll send you all a preview of this so-called the playlist that's emerging. All you have to do is subscribe, and you'll just continue to receive what what emerges. And I will then, after you've had a chance to watch what's in there, I will help customize an experience that you can deliver, at scale for your physician community that's doing heroic work for kids, in the San Diego environment right now.
Very helpful. Yeah. Anyway, God bless you. I hope
Okay.
really get better, maintain optimal health, and there's so much that you're going through, and I can't believe you're putting this much energy to help us, but it's really very much appreciated. But we'll be speaking very soon. Thanks,
Okay.
Abe.
All right.
Lots of
Thanks,
love
Adam.
to you all. Lots of love. Lots of love.
So,
Yeah.
oh, you're still there. So, yeah, thank you very much, Danny. And it's the last thing I just was thinking about when you said, creating health as being an entirely different ball game is also what you mentioned with Tracy. Why does it matter to be healthy to begin with? That was what.
That gets us into the work of the Whole Health Institute.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
whole other subject that I will, placeholder for that arc of the story, because the Whole Health Institute, Tracy Gaudette's work, is extraordinary. So let's end on that cliffhanger.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, that's a whole nother thing, but it led me to that next thing, if we're creating health, and then, but why,
Why? What's the purpose for health? What's the purpose for health?
because really that also you need to answer that question in order to be able to create health.
Yeah.
You need to know
exactly.
what you're striving for, and because that it's almost starting at that, having that pinnacle of significance in mind as you embark on your project, because that I think will guide what you do if you have that as a starting point almost of your project.
Yes, and from a physician well-being perspective, answering that question, I think ultimately it's physician first, heal thyself. I think it's super important for physicians to ask that question. What does optimal health mean to me? What does optimal health mean to me? And then from that place, as they come to the purpose of what optimal health means to them, they are qualified to elicit that same response in their patients and orient their care around that purpose.
Yeah, it's no, it's a wonderful way to think, and it's hard, right now, as Adam, alluded to, we definitely have a lot more stress with our physicians for many different reasons, and our group has grown so much since our last program that half or more of the people have not been familiar with your work or anything like that. The ones who have still benefit from it immensely, as I said, but there still are we're 150 physicians. That's a pretty big organization, and many of them are new practices that have joined our group and stuff. So many of them are still at even the basics of just step one of recognizing reactivity,
Yeah.
and so we've got everyone all over over the board. But I think it's an important project, because if we don't physician heal thyself, like you said, there's no way we're going to be able to do much good for our patients. So
well, Abe, this has been an extraordinary call, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to record this. What my intention is, it's interesting. What my intention is to actually include this recording in this series itself, because when other healthcare providers hear this, it will transform their lives. It will really transform and elevate their lives. So I think what we've done here today hasn't only been in service of your group, but what you've done in engaging in this conversation. What you've done in engaging in this conversation is transform other practices out there. Genevieve, you're back.
I'm so sorry. I had somebody coming into my house at 1:30 and I had to get back. So I was listening to the whole thing. So, but it sounds amazing. And I think I'm, so grateful and impressed and awed by what you're doing. And it sounds like this project will help so many different people, including us. And we were, again, very, very grateful to be able to be a part of this and to follow you in your journey.
So now, just, with your permission to actually upload this video over here, you're a part of the story too. You're a part of the story too that is going to ripple your compassion, the love and compassion that you and Abe have had, the way that you've stewarded your physician well-being. It has been such a privilege to walk beside you in awe and appreciation, And I think what people are going to experience in hearing you is just understanding what's possible. They're understanding the reality of what is, but the aspiration to what's possible. And it's because of you both that you're transforming healthcare, not only not only within Children's Primary Care Medical Group, but now as a result of this, inspiring that well-being in widening circles out throughout the healthcare system. So thank you. I really just deep bow of gratitude for this blessed opportunity for allowing me to record this. It was just incredibly, incredibly meaningful.
Well, thank you for guiding us and inspiring us and motivating us, because it's sometimes hard when we're in the trenches. We sometimes wonder, Genevieve and I, what are we doing here with this well-being committee? Are we really making a difference or not? And we think we are. We hope we are. And you've always, really kind of been our cheerleader to let us know that we should keep going with it, and kind of given us the motivation and energy and inspiration to keep going with it.
Well, I also want to say, yes, and you're doing all of that within, but I want to just acknowledge this moment, because every moment counts. Every moment counts. In this moment has counted, because I know that, the same way I'm encouraging an active learning cycle, I would encourage any medical practice or healthcare system to actually reflect on what have been the greatest teaching points, what has been the greatest learnings from our discussion that they can apply to not only create personal transformation in physicians' lives, but system transformation in humanizing healthcare. So you've actually been part of this fractal in this discussion. I love both of you.
Wonderful. Yeah. Love you, Danny. Thank you.
We love you too, Danny. All the best. We're thinking of you all the time, and
all the time. Yes. Yeah.
Really, we do. I mean, even though sometimes it goes a year where we haven't spoken, you come up routinely. I mean, every well-being meeting. So you
permeate our group. You permeate the well-being of our group in a positive way.
Absolutely, and we really wish you. We wish you the best. And if there is anyone on this planet who can take a challenge such as you have right now and really make greatness of it and create optimal health from it, if there's anyone on this planet who can do that, it's you, Danny. So we love you, and we thank you for everything, just being inspiring, just being you. So thank
you so much. Okay, we'll talk
soon. Thank you. Okay, sounds good.
Right,
okay,
bye.
Bye.